Hey everybody, movie reviewer next door here, and I'm back with another review. Trying out this new microphone because my headset mic is a little bit messy at the moment. But I just watched a movie that I've been trying to watch for a while, and that movie would be uh, The Substance. Yeah. Mhm. There you go. This is a 2024 horror film directed by Coralie Fargeau. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Starring from 2024, starring Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. In this film, a fading celebrity decides to use a black market drug, a cell replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. So, what did I think of the substance? So I've been wanting to watch this for a while, mostly because I had seen the director's previous film, Revenge, which I will talk about some of my thoughts on that in a second as well, like comparing it, because I really enjoyed that film. And I'll talk about its comparisons kind of like in a way, but um I do like this film. I like it. However, I don't love it. It sticks to a few things that I wish were either written out of the film, either cut down a bit, or overall just like I wish it was better. There's a lot of things I think this film could have improved on. I overall enjoy it, but I don't see myself going back to this like every year or anything like that, like a lot of horror classics. But I do enjoy it. I enjoyed my experience. Let me get to the cast though. Demi Moore plays Elizabeth. She is an aging Hollywood actress who has her own yoga thing that she does, kind of in the same way Jane Fonda did. She had like a big yoga thing. Um, if anybody knows Red Letter Media, there's the Silver Foxes who also worked with what's the gay guy's name? I can't think of his name. Richard, whatever. If you know him, you know him. Demi Moore is an actress. I'm kind of half and half on. I enjoy her for the most part, but I wouldn't call her like fantastic. Um, I think she's fine in Mr. Brooks, which again, a movie I love, Mr. Brooks. I think I think I remembered her being good in Disclosure. Um, but no, like as an actress, I think she's pretty decent. In this film, I think she does a great job. And I can understand why she is nominated for Best Actress. Um, so I definitely hope, even though I haven't seen most of the films nominated this year, I hope to God this wins over Amelia Perez because I think she does a way better job in the lead than Carla Sofia Gascon. Um, if Zoe Saldana was nominated, I would still say that because Zoe Saldana, while she's decent in that film, I don't think she's good enough for Best Actress material. Yeah, she was doing a decent job of being physical and like dancing and stuff during musical numbers, but I can't really put that as like a she deserves Best Picture or whatever. Also, I might like fiddle with these. I have like acne patches on, so I have to keep them on for a while to see if they work. Margaret Qualley plays Sue, who's basically the other version of Elizabeth. Margaret Qualley, I haven't seen her in much. I know my mom has seen her in a movie called Maid, or a show called Maid. I never saw it. Apparently, she's really good in that. She's pretty good in this. Even though most of the role is just being cute and or being hot and she I will give it. I will give her that. She is pretty damn hot. Um, but yeah, she works in a role. I was kind of. I found it kind of odd. The Oscars are just like giving random awards to every movie, but this Margaret Qualley isn't nominated for Best Supporting, and Dennis Quaid isn't nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Um, and that leads into Dennis Quaid as Harvey. He's kind of the agent. Um, Dennis Quaid, I've heard a lot of people say that they hate him as an actor. I love him as an actor. I've always enjoyed him in things like Pandorum. I enjoyed him in an underrated film. I would and anyone into like fast-paced thrillers, I would recommend you see where the hell is it? I had to find it. Vantage Point. I think he's really good in that film. Uh, Day After Tomorrow, I remembered him being decent. Um, Inner Space, Dragonheart. He's in a lot of classics. Enemy Mine. I remembered he was fun in The Intruder. Dreamscape. Great actor. I think he does a great job playing a disgusting sleazebag, and that's exactly what he's supposed to do here. Um, but yeah, I do want to address some of the more annoying things with this film first, actually. Because again, I really like this director's style. I have to give that to this right up front. It's a very distinct style. It's kind of music video-esque. It's kind of similar in a way to it's like if David Lynch made more sense. And I think she definitely knows what she's doing in terms of framing a shot. It it's not just a bunch of scenes where the camera's locked down on a tripod and it's very flatly lit, or it's not like an A24 film. And I think that's a plus because I'm not huge on A24 films in terms of cinematography. I don't think just putting a camera down in a pretty place counts as good cinematography. I think you have to know what you're doing with the camera, you have to have good framing. Just having a character walk from one side of the screen to the other and the background looks pretty doesn't mean the cinematography is good. It means you did good location scouting. But one thing that this film does that it I know I harp on this too much. It's a thing a lot of feminist films do, and this is undeniably a feminist film, just like Revenge. But I'll get to why it doesn't work in this the way it's done here as opposed to Revenge. But pretty much every male character. Also, I might go into spoilers, so I'm gonna just straight up um spoilers. The this whole trope of all men bad. I don't like this trope at all. I've never liked it. I never liked it when it was used back in the 80s at certain times. There are ways you can do it without it feeling malicious, but the way this film does it is kind of in a way a bit dishonest because they try to paint. Here's the thing, they have a lot of male characters. This film is undeniably a bit campy in ways. It has a message that it wants to put forward and it runs with that message, but it also is undeniably a bit camp in the terms of this. It's kind of hard to do a thing like this fully serious, and that's one thing I can get. Sorry. That's one thing I can kind of give to it is that it doesn't try to be just deadly serious. It's a little bit wink, wink, nudge, nudge, especially some of Demi Moore's lines while she's like listening to her other self on TV. But the thing that undeniably pissed me off the most was again, pretty much every male character is either a dickhead, creepy, or the main character is just kind of a bitch too. You have Dennis Quaid's character who again is supposed to be a slob. He's kind of an antagonist in a way to this for this film. He's antagonizing towards Demi Moore's character over her age, even though she's only 50 and she looks pretty great. Also, Demi Moore, I think, is actually 60 playing 50 here, which she works as it. And she looks great in this film. And I think that's kind of the point. I'm fine with that being the point. Um, but when pretty much every male character, even like the men that she sleeps with when she's in the younger body, one of them being a complete dickhead to the older version just because she's not as hot, quote unquote. That's exactly what they were going for. She accidentally bumps into him and he makes a big fucking deal out of it. Acting again, like I just wish feminist movies didn't do this type of writing because I think it, if anything, it makes the female characters look worse because it's like by association they're not as bad, even though this main character is kind of a bitch in terms of like she tells this guy, yeah, we're gonna go on a date. And I get what they're trying to do with this scene where she keeps applying makeup, she keeps looking outside at the billboard that's right outside of her apartment of the younger self. The whole point is she's being kind of lured into like, oh, maybe I'm not wearing enough makeup, maybe I'm not pretty enough. Even though this guy likes her for who she is, he literally says, you haven't aged a day, you look just as gorgeous as you did when you were younger. And he just genuinely seems like kind of a goofy, like kind of sweet dude. And she sets up this date with him and she doesn't go to it because she keeps like failing to put on makeup and she just kind of leaves him on read on all of his text messages, which again they try to paint him as this unstable guy because he's messaging her every 5 seconds. And again, this is a movie writing the male characters to be as ridiculous and over the top as possible in order to make the female characters look like they're getting girl power by being themselves, even though that's ultimately part of what drives her to become a crazy person later in the film. And again, you have like pretty much every younger male character is an asshole. You have the men are the ones who are violent and all that. So that is one big draw or to like one big con I would say for this film is that writing. And the reason I don't wouldn't say that about this is because there were only four characters in this film. Matilda Lutz's character, who was a very well written female character, I think in in the ways of they didn't try to make her like a choir girl. It was something a bit more interesting where she is like a sexually rebellious woman and she gets raped, assaulted, whatever. And the only other three characters in the film are her assaulters and her boyfriend, who, or the guy that she was sleeping with, who was, you know, allowing this type of behavior. So in a film like this, it makes sense for pretty much every male character to be an asshole because they're the ones who perpetrated the rape. Or like one of them did it and then the other two were like complicit in it. But in something like The Substance, I think that kind of gets in the way of the really interesting message in this film, which is aging in Hollywood, which isn't a new thing. It's been done in things like Twilight Zone and the episode 16 millimeter Shrine, I think, which is probably one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes. I love it to death, even though it's not exactly scary. I think how it ends is hauntingly beautiful and also kind of bittersweet at the same time. It makes me cry every time I see it. Um, in films like Mommy Dearest, where you see Joan Crawford's as a character in the movie, kind of go crazy after realizing like, oh, they want you to play the grandma or whatever. Um, or you're just not getting as good of roles, and then she kind of steals them from Christina, which it did happen in real life. A lot of people like to devalue Mommy Dearest as a film because of whatever, but yeah, a lot of things that happened in the film did happen IRL. Uh, but yeah, it's not something that's never been done before. Yes, aging actresses and actors They don't get to star in films a lot. It's awesome that we have films like this, which again, a film starring a 60-year-old woman. You have Saw X starring a an 81 or 82-year-old Tobin Bell, which is fucking awesome. You have Thelma starring a 90-year-old June Squibb. I'm pretty sure she's like about 90, which I still want to see that film. It looks really cool. It looks pretty funny. But we're kind of getting past that like slowly but surely. And this film does have a little bit to say about it, and I wish it said a bit more because this film has the ability to be very profound and it has that like that writing of like this kind of like one of the main quotes I saw was people saying a ferocious takedown of Hollywood beauty standards, and I don't really think that's the point is the beauty standards thing because um the real thing is that these characters it's like an aging thing more so than a beauty thing. Like I guess beauty is kind of tied into that, but I'd say it's a more of an age thing and more of a like, oh, she's not in the quote unquote $20 million club anymore. She's not a big celebrity anymore. And I personally saw the substance as kind of a metaphor for like adrenochrome. I know you might be thinking like, oh, is he gone crazy? But no, like I'm saying in a fictional sense. In a way, it is a drug that the main character is taking that is allowing them to look young and keep their youth, but at a cost. Like if you stop taking it or if you don't adhere to the rules, then you start to decay. It's kind of like in Catwoman, where one of the things I actually thought was kind of cool about Catwoman was the makeup, where if you stop using it, it decays your skin slowly and you, you're slowly dying because of your using those chemicals. And then like that kind of having some truth in life. I definitely think the substance is trying to say something a bit deeper about Hollywood and how kind of like the upper echelons of people in Hollywood, it is kind of a cult in a way. And maybe I'm the only person that sees it that way. Maybe it's because I'm in different circles than certain people, but I thought it was kind of profound. I wish it went a bit deeper on that, but it's definitely meant to be more of a like show don't tell thing because whenever she calls like the excuse me, whenever she calls the line, it's just like you disrespected the rules and stuff like that. It's very blunt. But yeah, trying to think of other things I wasn't huge on. Well, the film is a bit too long. It's 2 hours and 21 minutes. It's about the length of Terrifier 2. Uh just like that, I think this film's plot could have easily been done in an hour and 45 minutes, hour and 40 minutes. It does not need to be that long. You could have spent that extra time. Even if it has to be this long, you could have spent extra time on developing the character before going through with the substance part, and you kind of sped up the substance part because the second half of this film does kind of it does get kind of slow in the second half. Like the ending, I think is very fun for the most part, but leading up to that, there again, there's a lot of great body horror in this. But this film wants to do more than that, but it also kind of only scratches the surface of the subject matter it's trying to present. So I wish it went a bit further with that. But yeah, again, 2 hours and 21 minutes. It's way too long. I did feel the time. Like at first, like the first half of the film, I think is paced very well. The second half, I do think needed to be tightened up a little. Um, I also think that the like I know what they're trying to do with the ending. The ending is very obvious Um, the ending is very obvious. Like in the same way that Suitable Flesh, I could tell just because they were like, oh, it's a kind of Cthulhu-esque like H.P. Lovecraft story, and it's kind of like From Beyond or Reanimator and all that. I knew exactly how the fuck it was going to end, and it exactly ended like I knew it was going to end. While I will say this was better than that, like slightly better, I also would say that this film's again, the ending is very obvious. I wouldn't say it was very subversive. It ends about as well as you think a body horror film would. I guess that's the extent of my uh about the extent of my spoilers. But yeah, I just I wish the ending was a bit better done because it kind of feels like the ending is just like, oh well, I guess this is just going to shit now. And I wish there were more moments. Like I wish the bit with her not going out on the date with the guy, I wish that had happened. And I wish that I wish there was more of a like fight between her and the other self in terms of like, wait, there are some things like nice still in my life, even as like 50-year-old Elizabeth. Like, if the date had gone well, I think that would have been a bit more interesting and a bit more like it wouldn't have felt so much like this film was trying to do like a Requiem for a Dream thing where it's like, oh, it's just all gonna end bad. Like, you needed more moments sprinkled throughout of little glimpses of hope for her. Like, maybe the first time she meets him, or like she's admittedly kind of odd around him, but she, she tries to see him and then she just does the makeup thing, which, like, I get it, that works for the narrative, but you could have also had that and had her go out anyway, being like, I'm not, because this is still before she's like, 100% I can't go out anymore like this. She still looks pretty normal for the most part. She covers up the hand with the rotting finger. And I think not taking that chance kind of hurt the movie in terms of doing that type of plot line. But yeah, let me talk about things I liked. I really liked Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. Trio did a great job. Demi Moore and Dennis Quaid specifically really stand out. One of Demi Moore's best performances I've ever seen. One of Dennis Quaid's better performances. Um, the practical makeup effects are fantastic. If this doesn't win the Oscars over Amelia Perez for makeup and hairstyling, then we are all fucked. We are all doomed. The score by who was it? The score by Rafferty is fantastic. I think it works really well. The editing choices, the directing choices, pretty much everything about this film is very top notch. The gore, fantastic. I especially like that this little moment where she like there's like an alteration with the substance and she has to like push this chicken leg basically out of her like belly button. I loved that moment. I loved how disgusting it was. I love the sound design. The sound design was something that I loved and praised in Revenge, and 100% I praise it here as well. Um, I what else? Again, that's the thing. It's a few things that are holding this film back from being a like classic horror film for me or even classic body horror because I wouldn't say it's particularly scary. It's more playing on insecurities and it's not really an insecurity I have aging. Um but I get the point, and I do think there are some points that certain people aren't really talking about. Again, the whole like you can kind of see like a fictional the substance as a fictional version of like an adrenochrome like substance. And again, it's like evil Hollywood elites that want to whatever. And I wish it had fed more into that. That I think that could have been interesting and creepy, but yeah, I do still enjoy the film. And yeah, I do recommend. It's like a soft recommend. If you're into body horror films, I think you'll be into this. But yeah, that's my review of The Substance. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And movie review next door.